without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Shaun, Emma and John from Cumnock. They'll introduce themselves and let you know who they are and what they're doing as they're going through the session.
Thank you very much, Dave. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can hear us at the back. We don't have microphones, but we will try and speak nice and loud. My name is Shaun Lowrie, and I have the privilege of being a community coordinator with the Corra Foundation in Cumnock. For those who don't know Cumnock, it's a beautiful town down in East Ayrshire, where I've been born and bred and spent 32 years of my life, and now have the privilege of working and developing local-led action plan and supporting ideas as we progress through that plan over the next 5, 10, 15 years, however long that time scale is.
My name's Emma Waugh. I work for East Ayrshire Council in the Vibrant Communities team, and part of my remit is supporting communities in the community-led action plan process for communities that choose to go through that process.
Right, I'm John Senior. Unlike the panel, I didn't come from Cumnock, I came from Edinburgh, so I'll try and speak in my best Merseyside accent. I qualified along with my wife in 1974 as vet, worked in Northern Ireland where my wife came from, and then moved to Cumnock 41 years ago, being halfway between Northern Ireland and Edinburgh, and still had small mixed family farms. I wanted to be part of the community as a vet, and I was invited to join Round Table. The second aims and objects of Round Table is to recognise that one's calling offers an excellent medium of service to community. The rules of table are that you leave at 40, so I was chucked out then, and then until starting to think about retiring, I didn't do much in the community other than working there. There's a notice put round, the meeting was going to be held in the town hall, that we were going to develop an action plan, which I thought was a plan of action for Cumnock. They were doing alterations to the car park and shops, and I thought it might impinge on our surgery, which was right next to the car park. As is so often the case, I was quite wrong with this. It was to develop an action plan, which was taking views of the local community and trying to deliver that, and that's what we've been trying to do over the last 3 years. At that time I signed up, not sure what I was signing up to, and still probably am quite sure what I'm signing up to, but I still want to give back to the community that's given me a living. It took quite a lot of persuading various people from various organisations to set up a steering group, and I'll ask Emma now to describe to you what the process was of setting up this steering group and the action plan.
On the screen there, we've just put up a kind of visual of what the process is that we tend to follow as our framework. It's tried and tested in other East Ayrshire communities, so that's what we took forward in Cumnock. So the expression of interest usually comes from the community council, but if there was another group who expressed an interest, then it would be taken forward. Like John says, it was a kind of community information session that he went along to, where they're asked for people who are interested to sign up, be part of the steering group. And then the community involvement part, it's where they do household surveys, stakeholder interviews, but Cumnock were quite unique in that they had, through the partnership with Corra Foundation and the extra resource being Shaun, we were able to lengthen that kind of consultation period and do different, more informal types of consultations. So there was some focus groups with young people, focus groups with other community groups. They done pop-up events at schools, in the shopping precinct and at local events. And by lengthening this, they were able to collect more, basically better data than just put the household surveys through the doors and collecting that without any kind of face-to-face further discussion. From this is where we ask for people's likes, dislikes, and what they want to see in their community and what priorities they see.
I've been into it. I was involved with the organising of the responses from the public. Most of them were polite. Some weren't quite so polite. But we were very concerned that we wanted to take ownership of our plan. So the steering group were very involved with taking these responses and organising them into various themes. And it helped me greatly because I then got to know the steering group and the people from the Corra and from Vibrant Communities.
Yeah, I think just to kind of sum up on what we've done and why we've been working that way. We do have 4 questions that we are trying to answer in this session. So we've kind of touched on the analysis, and John's highlighted the importance of the community actually taking ownership of that part of the process. Historically, in other East Ayrshire areas that were developing community action plans, that support was continued to be given from the council, so the analysis collection was done and then went back to the community workers to kind of sift through the responses to then develop the themes, whereas in Cumnock it was real local people reading what other local folk were saying about the area, doing the informal stuff, going to Highland Games, going to shopping centre with post-it notes, giving out free tea and coffee. I think really added value to the engagement that we were trying to do, and I think kind of justifies the reason that we ended up with a 60% return on our surveys in Cumnock. Now 60% is 60% of the households, not the population. So the magic number we ended up with was 1,989 physical paper responses made to the consultations that we were doing, which I think really adds a bit of clout to the document that's sitting on your tables this morning. We really, whilst we were doing that engagement process, we really identified and I hate the word picked up individuals, but engaged individuals who had a real interest and a real passion for the local area, and who then went on to form the steering group, and some of whom are still with us now. I think we'll move on to looking at the values and where the pride in the work comes from.
Cumnock was a mining town where the people had more or less jobs guaranteed for life. Housing, 2 local pits closed just shortly after I came to Cumnock, and the loss of factories that supplied the mines. Cheap imports of carpets and knitwear led to closure of other factories. There's very other little industry in Cumnock. Stonefield, Bata, Monsanto came and went. So the value was trying to work in a depressed area and trying to get people to take ownership of the community that they were living in. And I feel that over the last few years there's been more community spirit in Cumnock, and many factors involved with that, but I like to think the action plan has helped to engender a feeling of pride in Cumnock. There's more community involvement. We now run Christmas Festival. This is the 3rd year we've run one. We had a spring fling, big lunch was associated with the Eden Project. At the Armistice Day we had poppies, we had made thousands of poppies around the town, and we've done several litter picks. It's been great getting groups involved with each other and helping with bigger events. More groups have been formed. A sewing bee and a gardening group have formed. I'm personally involved with the outdoor spaces and better town appearance. I describe myself as a doer person, a D-O-E-R and D-O-U-R person. I like to work outside, generally often on my own, which which tends to create problems with the group because I go and do things and they really would like other people to be participating. We've had great positive response. We've planted thousands of bulbs, and I appreciate it. We're getting appreciation from the public that we're doing this. Volunteers, it's not just councillors that are doing these. Shaun made up some small signs showing that it's the CAP group that have done flower beds and litter pick and bulb planting. We're very fortunate that the businesses in Cumnock have bought into it, and we have on lots of shops we have the Cumnock is ours logo, and I think this helps people realise that this is not these are all volunteers who's doing it. When we first started organising some flower beds, we had quite a lot of vandalism to them, and the last 2 years have been very much less. So I think it's great that we're getting people that are taking ownership of this and appreciating what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it just there is a real sense of pride. I mean, as I say, I am from Cumnock as well, so I'm quite lucky in the sense that whatever improvements I make to whatever improvements I'm involved in helping the local action plan deliver actually impacts me and my friends and my family as well. I believe that it's our community and we should take pride in it. Over the past 3 years, as I said, we've identified huge amounts of talent and skill, and John hates me saying it, but in Cumnock, we have a lawyer on the board, we have directors of businesses, all of whom say, oh, we don't have any skills, we don't have any talents. I disagree with you hugely every time, John, you say it. There is a
Very modest.
Yes, he is. There is a huge increase in local groups, and John's mentioned community events that are being led. We've seen new partnerships being formed, and I think really where the pride in the work comes from is social media. And one more, Janice, please. And some of the comments, we just captured 2 comments that one is a quote that we lifted from one of our partners in Cumnock Action for Children, and they support, many of you are aware of Action for Children, they support young people with complex needs. And Sylvia is another local person, a tremendous baker if anybody's ever after cakes. But the comment that Sylvia has made really just encapsulates the idea that people are recognising that, you know, there's so much happening, but it's all under the umbrella of the action plan. We're going to leave that up because the next thing we're going to talk about is the barriers, and we don't really see them really as much. Well, some of them are the barriers, but they're more about the challenges.
So bureaucracy has been quite a problem for us because none of us are from local government or central government. So trying to get things organised, because all of this is not our ideas. This is what, as we talked about this morning, this is what the public have wanted us to do and what they want to be done in Cumnock. Through the action plan, I've got involved in the community planning partnership, which has given me a chance to make contact and speak to heads of department. And sometimes this be, well, hoping it's going to make it easier for me rather than trying to go through the telephone and try and get shifted from department to department. I can get to the person who might be able to help us better. Different departments and councils seem to have different priorities and ways of working, which can be very frustrating for us. And so it can be very difficult for us to achieve our aims. One such, one of our group is wanting to start a memory garden, sort of dementia type garden. We started 18 months ago and thought this was going well to someone in the council said we had to go to a department to check that it wasn't wanted for housing. It's an old Bing. Who would want to build a house there? But still, we've got to go through this to make sure it's not going to be wanted for housing at some time in the future. And it just seems like, to us, it seems like an obstacle being put in our way. We also have sometimes problems with central government. From the action plan, people wanted the entrance road into Cumnock improved. And one of this is the roundabout with the Lang Wang across the A76. It looks awful tatty. And it's not attractive to visitors to Cumnock. But because of health and safety, we can't progress. The agency of Transport Scotland, we want to try and improve this, but it's health and safety. Unless we go out at 4 o'clock on a Sunday morning and just do it ourselves, we feel that it's just not going to progress forward. At the beginning, it's almost like a barrier getting the public to support us and get involved. That we now regard as more as a challenge. There's much more involvement shown by attendance at events, and as Shaun said, by engagements in social media. Some of our priorities, obviously from the action plan, we can't do ourselves. We need to involve other groups, such as renewing paths, felling trees in local woodland. So we've partnered with other agencies like the Woodland Trust and the Forestry Commission, and they've helped and are assisting us in trying to put into effect what the action plan was wanting to be done.
My role within East Ayrshire Council, the Vibrant Communities team, is to try and break down those barriers. So John was saying that things go to planning, and then planning maybe needs reminding that it's maybe sitting in their pile of to-dos, so that's where I come in, or simply getting a contact number for the group to be able to contact that individual directly rather than having to come through myself. They get that person's contact and can do that directly to empower change for themselves rather than me as a council officer having to do that for them.
Yeah, there is a lot of things that we recognise are priorities for the community that aren't priorities for other folk, and I think today, if we leave here that we recognise that we need to put the priorities of the community before our own priorities. Sometimes it might not be something that's easy to swallow, but I think it's something that we need to really consider. Although there are barriers and challenges in every line of community work, I think there's a lot that really keeps us going. and I think I'm probably sum it up that, you know, it's a sense of achievement. John will jump in with other stuff, loads of other stuff like that, but there is a real sense of achievement and in the increased levels of involvement in Cumnock. Cumnock was, you know, a town that was on the way out for local folk, and folk hated to see it. But you seen the comment there from Sylvia about that sense of pride coming back, about somewhere that she calls home and somewhere she wants to raise her family and send her kids to school. There's confidence in individuals. John said, you know, 3 years ago I would never have spoken in front of 50 folk at a conference, no way, but he's here today, and I think there's a lot of credit has to be given. The opportunities that, as they arise, we see volunteers taking those opportunities and going and building their capacity, you know, going to the Eden camp and then coming back with just so much enthusiasm and passion to take forward. I suppose just the positive comments that come from the community and the recognition. The team did receive an award from Keep Scotland Beautiful last year, so recognising the volunteers and I think just the fact that we all live in a community, we just continuing to share that idea that we all have a part to play. Our community events bring people together, we see lots of smiles, and every meeting that we have has got good coffee. It brings people food and coffee, just creates a great conversation. I don't know whether Emma or John's got anything else to add.
Well, from a personal point of view, what keeps me going, as I said, being a doer person, introverted person, I could easily have stayed at home in my own house and turned wooden bowls when I retired. My brother was also a vet, and he warned me that having our life being involved with the public, very important to keep that contact. And it's been great for me that as I walk through the town, I'm still obviously recognised as a vet, but also hopefully recognised as someone who's doing something for the community that's giving me a living. I'm an active person, I like doing things outside, so as a subgroup of the outdoor spaces and vegetarian appearance, I started a gardening group. Most didn't know much about gardening, but we built raised beds out of old pallets and tyres, grew flowers, vegetables, and the whole group found this very rewarding. They helped with, as I said, the poppies. We've planted some vegetables. I'm very quite keen on guerrilla gardening, so we planted some vegetables in some of the flower beds in Cumnock. And apart from the tatties, all the rest of the vegetables were lifted. I don't know why I didn't want the tatty. I like passing on knowledge, which the gardening group I enjoy very much. But it's really great when you're thanked by the public and things that we've done are noticed and appreciated. I've also had a chance to meet some lovely people in Cumnock and other groups outside Cumnock. I've made contact with the Community Planning Partnership. We're trying to make a change in Cumnock, and I feel empowered. We are making a change. There's a great sense of achievement in what we've achieved in just these 3 years.
I don't know if I fall into the category of lovely people that John's met, but I think that sums it up brilliantly. Thank you all for listening. We have put a slideshow, the last slide about the website and our Facebook page. Very, very active. We're more than welcome any questions that you have. But thank you all for listening.
Thanks, guys. That was really, really good. And I think it just kind of sums up for me in 15 minutes what a whole place-based approach is about. You were on time as well. Yeah, I didn't mean to remind you. We've got a couple of minutes for questions. If anyone's got any particular questions before we get into discussion.
So I'm Michael Chalmers, I'm the Director for Children and Families in the Scottish Government. So firstly, I think I just wanted to say congratulations on really a fantastic account of some brilliant work and really putting into practice what we're all here to hear about and try and learn about today, so well done. My question was around, probably partly answered by the quote you put on the slide there, but I'm always thinking about how we get to the hard to reach people. That's one of the big challenges. You've obviously done some extensive community engagement here. I wondered if you could say a bit about what you've done and the challenges you face, how you overcame them, to get to the views of people who might not ordinarily respond to surveys. So in my world, it's looking after children. We're always trying to get to, but also communities who might be disengaged.
Absolutely, Michael. I would say that our approach isn't that we go and target seldom heard groups. Our approach is fully inclusive at all times. We always think of the people in the community that wouldn't actively get involved. I mean, there are a list of groups that we recognise and have involved in various parts of the activities and events that have been going on over those 3 years. We've built great relationships with Action for Children, with a brilliant organisation, Things Today Social Hub, to support adults with complex and varying disabilities. We've got great links to the social work team within the council in identifying families. I don't know whether there's anything in it.
Well, we've got Hillside, which is, how do you describe Hillside?
Supported learning centre.
And they make poppies for us for the Armistead. We've had Things Today, they've come along. The gardening group, I really want to involve disabled people, retired people, all sorts of people within that. We have had them come along to our gardening group. So we are trying to reach out, and that part of what I had appreciated when I joined the action plan, how many groups meet in Cumnock. And I had one assistant left the practice saying that there was nothing to do in Cumnock. If I'd known about the groups that were going on, I could have put him forward to some of these groups that I'm sure he would have been like to be involved with. So it's we want to try and be inclusive very much.
Sorry, just as part of the consultation process, there's the household survey, but there's also a school survey gets done as well. So it's the same questions, but they can draw pictures, and there's different there's like smiley faces and stuff. So it's targeted at that age group, but that's also analysed in a kind of young person's report is put together as part of the usual process anyway. And then stakeholder interviews where we actually targeted specific groups that Shaun had mentioned as well.
Okay, that's good. Rebecca?
Yeah, I'm Michael McClark from Scottish Natural Heritage, and just to do your action plan to get the open spaces section. There's a risk of being unfair to my colleagues in terms of who could help move some of these actions forward, looking at sort of your ambitions for woodland walks and upgrading walking routes and so on. We're not mentioned there, and neither are such trans or pastoral, and they have quite big pots of money.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to maybe connect to this and have a chat about how we might help get that forward.
I appreciate that comment, and I suppose it's the people that are identified within the plan are what local people identified as the key stakeholders. So, I mean, they may not have been aware of Paths for All or Scottish Natural Heritage, but certainly we can broker that connection moving forward if you'd be up for a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just maybe says something about maybe our profile. and the profile of these other organisations that it didn't occur to people.
Yeah.
That could help.
That's the function of a day like today, so we get contact, tie string to people. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah, yourself first. Yes.
I'm Helen Forsyth. I'm from the Ayrshire Housing Association down on the side of Scotland. And it was something you said, Shaun, and I thought about the work you've been doing in our communities, where you said sometimes you have to put the community's priorities first and not your own priorities, and we're talking about outcomes and challenges. And I just wondered if you felt able to share an example, because I think that's one of the big
Examples. I suppose asset transfer is a kind of live example. We're supporting two kind of sections. We've got subgroups within the action plan themselves, so they naturally form as an organisation, and then subgroups kind of break away with their own themes and their own key priorities. So we've got two open spaces that are in the pipeline for asset transfer. We've got community members with a passion and really try to push that forward to get some progress. One of which is just an open green space. It's quite a nice open green space. The other is an absolute eyesore, and it's right in the town centre. We have been pursuing, or the volunteers have been pursuing a lease on that plot of land for 18 months now with the council. There's issues over identifying the ownership, drafting it's common good plan, drafting up an agreement. Some of it does need some work to be done by the council, and really it's not a priority for them as it stands just now. So we just have to continually encourage, you know, the local volunteers to send an email, speak to a local councillor, you know, just keep pushing, and hopefully we can, you know, change that mindset and that attitude.
And we had a discussion kind of briefly yesterday about this. Shaun, we were talking about where did the priorities identified by the community sit with public bodies, local authority, or whatsoever. And I think Shaun was reflecting to me that you were getting to the stage now where the council is increasingly looking at the action plans that have been developed by the community in terms of, you know, that informing what they respond to, what they prioritise. It's not going to happen 100% across the board straight away, I think, but certainly working towards that as well. So we've got 3 hands up. I think yourself at the back first, and then I'll come to you at the front. Yes.
Well, I'm John Lowrie, I'm the National Director for Sustenance.
Next guy. I'll just get using the huddle after the session.
My question, thanks for highlighting that, you know, my question was going to be, quite often those of us who are managing funds on behalf of government agencies or government, we can contribute to what's referred to often as a crowded landscape for accessing funding, and that's something that really bothers me. So my question was going to be to how have you found it in terms of accessing funding? How easy has it been, or actually how difficult and how time consuming is it, and how daunting a prospect is it if you've got lots of different funding streams with different application forms that all run at different times?
Very frustrating. Thankfully, Shaun's very good at filling these sort of forms.
I don't feel
great.
it.
No, that's not been my vocation in life. So I find filling in these forms, and I'm not a computer type person, so that increases my problems even further. So yes, I find them, sometimes the questions they ask seem too ambiguous, and we feel that if we don't fill it in as is required, then we're just going to lose out.
If I'm totally honest, John, although we're 3 years into the plan, we have the group or the organisation haven't actively been pursuing much grant funding to deliver on some of the priorities. There's so much. There's 92 bullet points in there, I think, have been identified as priorities. I know that inside out, that document, but there's so much that we've delivered in those 3 years using just the skills, the talents, the knowledge and the connections at a local level. We have, through setting up the gardening group, the theme of the outdoor activities and open spaces, the guys were successful in a Greg's Environmental Award for £2,000 to deliver in some of their projects. Our Christmas festival has had big lottery awards for all funding to help get that up and established. We've had a local grant from the local authority as a kind of start-up grant of, I think it was about £800 to cover administration and stuff like that, just for the group to find their feet. But other than that, we haven't actively been pursuing a lot of grant funding, not to say that it won't come in the next year or so.
We have had help from the Forestry Commission and the Landscape Partnership for one of the local woods, so that they did most of the filling in the forms rather than us.
So I'm Jonathan Price, I'm the Scottish Government Director for Culture and Tourism. But my question is first of all, it's a very inspiring narrative you've given us, it's working very well in Cumnock. We want to bottle it really, and it's a question around what is the essence of it, and actually for Emma, are you getting similar activity across East Ayrshire, or are you not? I mean, how do you spread it?
Well, currently another one was just launched. There's now 19 community action plans across East Ayrshire, and there's also a homeless thematic action plan was launched earlier this year as well. Capacity of the groups are all individual. Priorities, although they fit, there is kind of like general themes that come across, like dog fouling and litter and the state of the place and hanging baskets and all this type of thing. is true throughout all of them, but there are some things that we see that are very specific to areas. We certainly work at the pace of the community. Some action plans were created and then maybe there's been fallouts or the steering groups fell apart, or just the nature of groups. People just they come and they go and they leave. So there's some very active steering groups and some very active plans, and there's other ones that have maybe launched that are due to do their next 5-year plan, that maybe have had 12 months of not doing very much because they've already completed the majority of the priorities within the plan. Not every group's like Cumnock. we all have kind of expertise that sit on the board. We're very, very lucky in Cumnock that the capacity of the steering group is fantastic.
Yeah, we're a group, we seem to work very well together. We've had some people have left, and I was at one speaking in a group, and somebody asked, and how many have you got with their own agendas? And I hadn't thought of that, but we did have in the past some that obviously had a different agenda from what we were doing, are no longer part of our group. So now we've got a smallish group of 10 or 12, and I think we all work, nobody's want to try and score points of anyone else, they're all working very well together, and we're very, very lucky. We've got a graphic designer who helped with the drawing up of the action plan. He's very enthusiastic about that and very enthusiastic about his history group. So I think enthusiasm is probably one of the main things that we have in our group, and we just work very well together.
Thanks, John. Conscious of time, and I do want to give you a chance to have a bit of a chat amongst yourselves as well, but you've been...
thank you very much. Matt Baker from the SOAP Network, we're a community development trust in Lowrie. Just follow up to that question first. Do you mind from the Scottish Government we should look at the East Ayrshire Vibrant Communities Programme? What I wanted to ask was do you guys have a space that you work from on a day-to-day basis that makes you accessible to the community? Because that was something that was a total game changer for us, to have somewhere where people can drop in and see how things were progressing.
No, we don't. The group would absolutely love to have a space that they could call their own. Emma and I both work out of local council offices, and the group themselves meet when it comes to doing monthly meetings and stuff, and an organisation that World and Cumnock give the space free of charge for the group to use, but at the minute we don't have a shop front or a building that people can come in and get some updates on what's been going on. We do make great use of community events and community activities. Any time there is something happening, we make sure that we have a prominence, we have a stall, we have boards and photographs to update people, but unfortunately no, we don't have a space.
But you'd like one?
We would love a space.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks folks for the comments and questions and responses from panel. Just to give an appreciation to the